Or can you just lead the, I go for refuge till I'm enlightened. Yeah.
Ok. Vamos nuevamente a tomar refugio. Decimos, voy por refugio hasta alcanzar la iluminación, al Buda, al Dharma y a la Asamblea Suprema, por los méritos que acumule practicando la generosidad y demás perfecciones, que pueda lograr el estado de Buda para beneficiar a todos los seres. Voy por refugio hasta alcanzar la iluminación, al Buda, al Dharma y a la Asamblea Suprema, por los méritos que acumule practicando la generosidad y demás perfecciones, que logren el estado de Buda para beneficiar a todos los seres. Voy por refugio hasta alcanzar la iluminación, al Buda, al Dharma y a la Asamblea Suprema, por los méritos que acumule practicando la generosidad y demás perfecciones, que pueda obtener el estado de Buda para beneficiar a todos los seres.
So we're just going to sit for a couple minutes and go back to that experience of refuge. So, very simply, it's just breathing in, bringing in all the blessings, feeling loving kindness in your heart. Breathing out, letting go, and giving to all sentient beings. So it's like we give to ourselves from the Buddha, and then we give out to all beings. But the source, comes from the Buddha, which ultimately is our own wisdom, love, and compassion. And when this is strong and stabilized, then the ultimate refuge is in the lack of findability of the I. So it's always good to end by doing either just experiential or brief analysis of the I. Bringing up an experience where the mere I becomes the reified I, the big I, the me. How dare you say that to me? Why were you so mean to me? How dare you step on my toes? I'm afraid of falling. I'm afraid of whatever, I. You have to bring up a sense of that big I, And with another part of the mind, one part of the mind holds the I, holds the experience, the emotional I, the big one. But with another little part of the I, we have to look and see, where is this I existing, the one that feels so real? If it were to truly exist, it must be findable upon investigation. So, in the more simple analysis, we can just look for the I. Is it somewhere in the body? Is the I my brain? Is the I somewhere in my chest? I don't think the I's in my feet or my arms. It feels like it's in my chest, right? But if the I was somewhere in my body, why do I call it, my I, my body, it's mine, Anyway, we can't find it anywhere in the body. So then we think, well, I must be my mind. Well, why do I call it my mind? If I was my mind, it would be the mind's mind. Mind would be I. I couldn't look at my mind. I couldn't see my jealousy. I couldn't see my desire, I couldn't see these things in my mind because it would just be, the same thing, So it actually feels like the I is separate, doesn't it? It's separate from the mind, it's separate from the body. It's something not the mind and not the body. But that's totally absurd because then my I could be like on the other side of the room. It's not like hovering in space somewhere above my body and mind, looking at my body and mind. But it appears to be separate, doesn't it? I can definitely see it's not the same thing. But it's not that either. Because it's absurd to think it would be, somewhere separate from my mind and body. So what is this I? It's just an appearance that arises in dependence upon mind, and dependence upon body, and dependent upon experience. It's a label, you know, I, me, my. Because we have an experience, there appears to be a truly existent experiencer. But really, it's just arising in dependence upon the experience. There appears an experiencer. And because this happens all our lives, there's a continuation of this experiencer, so we tend to think it's something that truly exists. And that's what gives us all the trouble. Because really it's just arising moment by moment by moment and doesn't truly exist at all. Doesn't mean, you know, there's no me. It just means there's no me the way it feels like. There's no truly existent me. There is a dependent arising me because there is an experience, there appears to be an experiencer. But it's not really how it feels to us when we're angry, you know, when we're jealous, when we're shaking inside because we're not getting what we want. It's at that moment that we need to stop and look, where is this I? And then we just rest in the non-finding experience. It's not like you know, there's something to grasp onto that can't be found. You just rest in the kind of space-like awareness of unfindability of I. They say the closest thing is to it is just, you know, space. You can kind of get that. There is an experience, but no truly existent experiencer. No truly existent experience. This is just in the ultimate analysis. You know, of course, we need an I to move around in the world. But if we really check, if it were to exist the way it appears to exist, it would be findable upon investigation. But look and look and look, where is the I? And then when you can't find it, you just hang out there. It's actually kind of a relief. And then again, you know, just return to the breathing in. Feels so good to just breathe in and relax. Feel safe, protected, and kind of swimming in the ocean of love with no truly existent I anywhere to be found. Okay. So what if you do? What do you do if you can't meditate and you hate meditating? Can you still be a Buddhist? Do you have to be a Buddhist to do these things? No. I mean, technically, if you want to really take refuge, you want to become enlightened. No, it's good to take refuge and not take refuge in other things. Anything. I mean, that's the commitment of refuge, is you don't take refuge in anything else. And you really respect the Dharma. And the Dharma becomes the most important thing in your life, It's your lifeboat, in the sea of samsara. But I was thinking about it, and I thought, well, what do you do if you find meditation really difficult? Well, that's okay. You don't, you can do other things. There's lots of other ways to the path to enlightenment, if meditation is really difficult for you. There's service. There's always service. And if you, I think it's good to find out what you're good at and just do that. And if you do it with some sense of refuge, and everybody can do a little bit of refuge, and with bodhicitta motivation, then you do that. And try to meditate a little bit every day. But don't feel discouraged, It's just all about creating causes and conditions. And if you dedicating is really important. If you dedicate your service, if you want to enjoy meditation, dedicate your service to that. And for sure, effortlessly it'll come, because dedication, karma is infallible. If you really dedicate your activities to what to what you want to have in your life, it will come. And it's okay to dedicate your Dharma practice to healing psychological wounds, because we need to do that to become Buddhas too, So don't feel bad if you dedicate to saying, I need to heal this trip with my mother, I need to heal this problem with my daughter, It's okay to dedicate to that. I mean, you have to always dedicate to attain enlightenment, but you can also dedicate to, I need a job. Please help me get a job. That's okay to take care of yourself. You need to know that. I need to find a doctor. I need to find a guru. What are you, it's okay. Anyway, let's ask some questions now. Come on, you must have some questions.
I just want to share something that I never felt.
Oh yeah, you can share too.
Okay.
Just you don't have to ask a question.
Okay.
It's like sharing time. I mean, I need to get some feedback so I know what to do tomorrow.
I never felt that before when I was meditating and meditating on the eye.
Mm-hmm.
I felt like between my head and my chest, like a bright light, but with anxiety.
Anxiety.
Yeah.
Oh, that's good.
Yeah, and then and then when I meditate in the refuge,
Mm-hmm.
I felt something totally different and never
Mm-hmm.
felt before.
Mm-hmm.
Like it was inside of me, but everything was black, and I was so deep in my breath. And
Did it feel good?
and then you said, "Okay, stop." And
You didn't want to stop. So it felt
and
good,
I
huh?
didn't want to stop. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, that's a good sign.
Yeah.
Just do
First
it-
time I felt something like that.
Yeah. Well, that's good then. Then do it at home. It gets easier, the more you do it at home. But what I find it's really key to keep the awareness of the breath, because then it's like it ties the experience to the breathing. So then you're sitting on a bus. Refuge, feels good, my mother's yelling at me. Refuge, feels good. you know. You know? Really, breathing is a good thing, you know. Don't forget to breathe. Yeah. Well, I know, but most of the time we just kind of, you know, we don't breathe so much, you know. So that's why it's important to breathe here. Any complaints? Criticism? Yeah.
How those yoginis, high yoginis, they can stop breathing, how they...
Because when you enter the winds in the central channel, you don't need to breathe anymore. Because the subtle, it's like you're in the very subtle, inside the heart chakra, the body doesn't need the breathing anymore. The mind isn't no longer in the gross nervous system, so it doesn't need breathing. Yeah. Yeah, no, you don't do it. It just happens automatically. Yeah. Yeah.
I have questions about the different kinds of refuge that you were discussing. It was the inner refuge,
Mm-hmm.
then you said emptiness as a refuge,
Mm-hmm.
and then loving kindness. But you mentioned some others, like...
I could just talk about it again. Because I mean...
It's not discussing them, just to enumerate.
Yeah, but maybe I didn't make it so clear, you know. So the outer refuge is like the Guru, the Buddha, the Dharma, the Sangha, you know. And the inner refuge is actually your own inner wisdom. And the more you take refuge in the outer Guru, and especially, I think that's why we always bring the Guru into the crown of the head and it sits into our heart, you know. Because at that point, when the Guru, I didn't do it because, you know, I don't want to keep forever, you know, to everybody. So I kind of don't do the whole long thing, but the whole meditation. But when the Guru comes into the heart, you think, I didn't say this time, so you think my mind and the Guru's mind are inseparable. I should have said that. That's really important. Like they say, like water mixed in water, you know. Because that's what creates the cause for the inner Guru to grow. So that you feel more and more like my mind and the Guru's mind are the one. You know, because that's ultimately what you want. Because the Guru's true nature is emptiness, and the Guru has the experience of emptiness and great compassion. So when it comes in my mind as one with the Guru's mind, then that's when you meditate on emptiness. Okay? Yeah, and then the secret one is taking refuge in the bliss that comes. The secrets always has to do with more highest yoga tantra bliss, you know, then what do they call it? Inseparable bliss and emptiness, you know. And then the ultimate refuge is always, you know, the ultimate is always emptiness. So that's how that works. And so you can try to, you know, think about all four, you know. Mm-hmm. And I suppose the secret's also like the yidam too, you know. See? Wait, you need the... Maybe Alberto.
The music have any role in Buddhism?
Music?
Yes.
Oh yeah, big role. Music dispels the suffering of sentient beings. And they say that bodhisattvas, if the bodhisattva is not a dharma teacher, the bodhisattva is a musician. Because music, even my mother who was a painter, she said, you know, I think music is the highest of all the art forms because it's the one that really touches our emotions and lifts us up into a higher state. Yeah? Mm-hmm.
The reason I'm asking you this question is because I was confused because I understand at the beginning Buddha, he forbids his disciples to incorporate music into the liturgics. The way the previous to Buddhism, they used to practice in India, that everything was including music, etc.
I don't think Buddha forbade his people to use music. I think music is, I mean, especially now in the West, I think we have to use more and more music. I mean, even the Tibetans' liturgies have musical instruments in them. They're just not Western musical instruments, but they do very, very beautiful chanting,
Yes.
you know, and that's just their cultural music, but that doesn't mean we can't have our cultural music,
Right.
you know. And I think, you know, part of our job of bringing Dharma to the West is making, you know, Buddhist music. Because I think people make a mistake, you know. I don't think people wanted, Buddha didn't want them to do just ordinary music, you know. But if you're doing music that is, the liturgy is something to do with Dharma, you know. I mean, even the monks dance, you know. So I think that's a wrong conception to think that Buddha didn't want his people to I mean, maybe they do that in Theravada or something, but, you know, in the Tibetan Buddhism and in Tantric Buddhism, it's all about pleasure and enjoyment, and music is like music and dancing is a very high form of enjoyment. So it's not the music, it's the motivation behind it. If you're doing music just for a worldly feeling good, you know, it's not so great. But if you're doing music as an offering to others, or as an offering to the Buddhas, then, I mean, you know, and when you do the tantric practices, there are always the dakinis have, they offer all of these musical instruments, and they're dancing and doing all these beautiful things, and it's part of it all, you know. And, I mean, just the other day, I was talking to my friend George, who is a very good musician, and he said, "Oh, Nyingje, you know, I'm not meditating very much." I said, "Well, you playing a lot of music?" I said, "Well, you know," I said, "Well, music is your practice. With music, you know, music is generosity. Music, you have to practice a lot of patience. You know, to be a good musician takes, well, maybe not so much morality, but you can be a moral musician, you know. It takes a lot of joyous effort to do, you know, it takes a lot of perseverance to become a good, concentration, wow, you know. And then if you apply wisdom to that, then there's no reason why music can't be your sadhana, you know. I think we need to, that's when I say, you know, I think we can take Dharma, as long as you understand the essence of Dharma, you can take it and apply it to many different things. And, you know, I think music is very wonderful. Yeah. So I don't think you have to think, oh, now I'm a Buddhist, I can't listen to music. You can listen to any music as long as you make it an offering to the Buddha. Right? Anyone want to debate that with me? Wait, a microphone.
It was curious because when we talked earlier, I was telling you, like, I live kind of like a weird life.
Yeah.
And I think what I could contribute to society. And I used to be a musician.
Yeah.
And mainly the reason I stopped playing music is it didn't mean anything. When I stopped finding people who I got along with,
Yeah.
there was no motivation to do it.
Wait, you mean when you had no one to play with music with?
Yeah, but the people who play the same way I wanted to play.
Yeah.
Which was back then I didn't have the word devotion, but that's what I had in mind.
Yeah.
When I played it, and then when I stopped, you would just go out and be by myself. I
Yeah,
didn't want
yeah.
to deal with people.
Well, you know, like John Coltrane and Miles Davis, it was totally devotional, you know. George Harrison, totally devoted. We were looking the other night, you know, at a video called Concert for George, you know. If you listen to George Harrison, it's totally devotional, you know. So you just need to find some other musicians, maybe. What do you play? What?
Yeah, play saxophone and bass.
Oh, well, then you know all about John Coltrane.
Yeah, that was Miles Davis and John Coltrane and
Yeah.
Thelonious Monk.
Yeah.
Those were the people I was listening when I was
Yeah.
growing up.
And Jerry Mulligan, too. He's
Yeah.
also he was very devotional. He was a Buddhist, you know. So maybe make that your prayers. I need to find some people to play music with. so I can have devotional music, you know. Yeah. Yeah, Mirna.
Yeah, the other night you were talking about the 5 wisdoms and the 5 Dhyani Buddhas.
Yeah.
Would you mind explaining a bit about each of them? Because we use them in the process of, in the stages of death
Yeah.
when we're practicing. So,
Yeah. I don't know if this is the right. Is this the whole tantric group or not? You know, I don't know. Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Next time. The other thing, before I forget, I asked Gloria to remind me for the tantric practitioner. She said, why do you want to do an approximation retreat? An approximation retreat, if for those of you who don't know, is, you get an empowerment, receive an empowerment from, your precious Lama, and it gives you permission to practice a deity practice. An approximation retreat is generally when you say 100,000 mantras of the deity. And particularly with High Yoga Tantra, the reason I encourage people to do it, the first reason is because you become closer to the deity. You really get a much stronger experience. So then when you go home and do your daily practice, it's so much better, But the other reason is because after you've done the 100,000 or whatever the number is, and the fire puja, you can do a short self-initiation every day, a short self-empowerment every day, and that purifies your vows every day. And so that's really important, to be able to purify your vows every day. And so that's a really good reason to do it, because we break our vows constantly, Maybe not the bodhisattva vows so much, but the tantric vows, you're supposed to never be parted from the view of voidness, right? Duh. Whoever has a view of voidness, right? So, and there's other ones. So it's really, really good if you can, and the short self-initiation just takes 5 or 10 minutes. You just stick it into your practice. And so I highly recommend you to try to do that if you can afford to take time off work and you have money to go to some Dharma center somewhere to do that. Yeah. She needs the mic.
When you do an approximation retreat, you need to do it, when you do it for the first time, do you need to do it with a lama, or at least have a lama do the fire puja for you? Or
No. I think it's better if you can do it with a group of people, because you've never done it before, and the group energy really helps you, and they do the fire puja, and it's much better. But if it's a choice between doing it by yourself and not doing it at all, then it's better to do it by yourself. And you can get help, you can talk to other people. These days you can Skype somebody, if you have any questions you can talk to someone. And even there's books now about how to do fire pujas. So, you can pretty much do it. But one thing you need to know is that if you do the approximation retreat, you have to do the whole sadhana from start to finish every day until you do the fire puja. Because sometimes you can't do the fire puja for a month or something. But if you stop doing it, then you lose the whole thing. So you have to do the whole. So that's another important thing to know.
You have to go on meditation.
No, because Geshe Sultan. She said, then you have to go on a vacation. And I said, no, because nowadays, I can't, my brain is so bad. Anyway, nowadays, there's lamas that have their students just doing them, they take longer. But you do one session a day, or 2 sessions a day, it's a little bit of a stretch. You get up an hour usually in the morning, you do one before you go to work, you do one when you come home at night, you do it on the weekend, and you count the mantras, and you sit in the same seat. And then at the end, it might take you a month or 3 months. I have a friend who did Vajrasattva that way, and I think it took her 6 months, but she did it. And Geshe Gelsen, that's his name. Geshe Gelsen in L.A., he's passed away now, but people in Los Angeles are very busy, and they would do group retreats like that. They would just like check in with each other. I'm not sure if they actually came to the center in the evenings. Maybe they did that, and did one. I don't think they did it because they have to be on the same cushion. So I think they just do it at home, And then you can arrange to do a fire puja. But you really need help to do a fire puja. You need someone to hand you the substances, But, there's a book by Michael Parrott and Sharpa Tulku that's the Library of Tibetan Works and Archives, and it's a fire puja book, and it tells you how to draw the things. And nowadays people just make big photocopies of the mandalas and don't even draw them. I prefer to draw them, but people do that, So it isn't that difficult, and you could do it at the beach or something where you can have a fire, I know people who've done it that way. And even if you have to do it by yourself, you can just put all the substances around you and just grab them, And if you can't get all the substances, you can substitute. If you can't find the right grass, you just use some other kind of grass. Or if you can't find the barley you just get wheat, You just Kirti Sencha Rinpoche told me that the yogis in Dharamsala, or the yogis in Tibet, they couldn't get all that stuff. He said all that stuff was for high lamas. He said you can just get a bowl of rice and pretend it, or a bowl of wheat and pretend it's all those substances. So you just do the best you can, and as long as you do the ritual, and as long as you have faith and intention and good motivation, then that counts. So don't be daunted by all the Tibetan rituals. You can do it anyway. Right? Does that help? Yeah. Mm-hmm.
If I want to do a tantric sadhana like Vajra Yogini, I need to have a approximation retreat before. That's okay?
No. You just need the empowerment before.
Okay,
you just need the empowerment, but to do the self-initiation, you have to do the approximation and the fire puja.
Okay,
but no, to do it, you should do it every day if you have the empowerment. Yeah, right?
And do you have to have a highest yoga tantra initiation to do an approximation?
Yeah, definitely.
Yes.
You have to have the first you need to get the initiation of the deity that you want. Then you do the retreat. Then you do the fire puja. You can't do it until you've had the initiation. But there's an exception. I don't know who made this exception, but I think His Holiness and Lama Zopa Rinpoche, there's some Kriya Tantra, the lower tantras, you can do without the empowerment. That's why you can invite, like the other day we did the Tara Puja. You can do Tara, Medicine Buddha, Chenrezig. These ones you can do without having the empowerment. I think White Tara, I think these ones you can do, So if those mantras mean something to you and you haven't had the empowerment, you can go ahead and say those mantras, right? Or even you can just have a friend who's had the empowerment, help you. Yep. Any questions over here? This quiet side of the room? Don't be shy. If you don't talk, I have to talk, and I don't like to talk all the time.
Nyingje, this is different.
Yeah, okay.
Practices, but there were some recent studies that says some psychologists that we name it as Buddha nature, come to your being body, can be 6 months, even after born, but Buddhism belief is at the moment of the conception.
No, we always have Buddha nature.
Yes, but in the womb.
Yeah, there's Buddha nature from the moment of conception.
From the moment, yes, that's what I understand in Buddhism. But there have been some scientific research by psychologists that they say maybe 6 months later, by regressions they have done. So I've been speaking this with him. He said at the same moment when conception happens, at that exact moment, Buddha nature comes, because that's the only moment.
Well, your subtle, your Buddha nature is your subtle mind,
Yeah.
It's the ultimate nature of your subtle mind. And the subtle mind is what happens at the conception, The sperm and the egg come together and the subtle mind goes there.
So as I understand, that's like a little house becomes like the little house. Is that what is inside
Yeah,
this area?
the little house, we have the subtle drop, the subtle red and white drop that resides in the center of the heart chakra. And that is where, the very subtle mind resides. And that is the very subtle mind that really that moves from life to life to life to life to life, like that. Yeah.
Thank you.
Any questions about refuge? That's all right. Yeah.
Hi, I got one from Refuge.
Yeah.
So. When you're starting to work, for example, to try to detach from a particular situation and you're looking for refuge through meditation, when you're starting to work with the situation, everything comes to mind. How can you more or less know that what you're coming up with as a result that you want to continue, it's generally what you're looking for or will bring happiness to you, and it's not the I or the ego just trying to grasp another addiction or another situation that will look for comfort and then maybe alleviate the one that I'm trying to, get out of it. So how do I really know at the beginning of the situation that it's truly what I'm looking?
You mean, is your refuge the true refuge?
Yeah. What I'm feeling in the meditation where, the path that I should go through, is it the real one or is it the I once again trying to grasp?
Is it a grasping I or
Yeah.
is it a true path or is it a false path? That's a good question.
Because when you're trying to start with a situation and a lot of things come and you don't know if it's another option, just to fall into the same thing, but another situation.
You mean like a situation, like actually doing something, or just when you're sitting feeling something? Are you asking, is it like, is the feeling that I'm feeling the right feeling, or is it the choice I make that now I want to do this in my life to make it better? Is that the right choice?
Exactly. Is the connection
like the conclusion you come
because I feel something and then I say, okay, maybe this is a path that I should start moving towards to.
Yeah.
And then, okay, wait.
The doubt
Is
comes.
it something that I'm trying to grasp now that it's not? And
Yeah. Well, I think this is a really good question, and I think maybe we can all answer that a little bit. But I would say, and then you can say, but I would say, look at your motivation, and then also, where is that going to take you? Like for example, you're coming out of a relationship and you think, oh, here's another man. Is this, is this the right way to go? Is this the right one? Am I, is the right thing for me to go with this man? Or should I maybe not, And I think at some certain point, I have this problem too. So I think at some certain point, it's like, if you've really taken refuge, from your heart, and you really have the motivation, then at some point you just have to start believing in yourself and believing that what I'm being guided to is the right thing. And okay, if 6 months later I found out I made a mistake, it's not a big deal because I learned from that. And I think what I've come in my life, I've decided, look, because I really have faith in my refuge and my bodhicitta, then I have to believe that what I'm doing is the right thing. And even if it, shifts, and I look back and think, well, maybe that wasn't the right thing. But at the time, it was the right thing. So I have to have a little bit of faith in myself, And it's like, okay, it's a bit scary. I'm going to go out on this. But you'll find out soon enough if it's not the right thing, I suppose. If it's a situation like, am I going to borrow $50,000 to go back to school? That's a really big one. You don't want to make a mistake there. So, so you have to use your intuition and trust your intuition, maybe talk to your friends, but you also have to use your reason. And you have to lay out all the reasons. this is a good reason to do that, you know. And then, but ultimately I think you have to kind of try it on a little bit, you know, maybe don't do it yet, but okay, just in my mind, I'm gonna see how this feels for a while and just pretend that you've done that and see what it feels like, you know, before you actually do it, just kind of pretend, you know. But that's a really good question. Did you want to say something about that? Yeah. You can also do like tarot and divinations and go see an astrologer, and I mean, all these things I think are helpful, you know. I mean, even the lamas consult astrologers, you know. I'm serious, you know. Yeah. Yeah.
Yes, I think to answer the question of, what's your name? Carmen. I have a particular situation in my life now that I have only to understand it. But when I begin to do the refuge thing, it's like situation is already there, but your appreciation of the situation changes. You feel protected. You feel like something in your heart is different about the whole thing. It's like a kind of assurance feeling that says to you that you're on the right path about the situation. The situation is there, but your perception changes.
Yeah. I think, you know, it's also one of the things I do too, like before I go to sleep at night, sometimes I take refuge and I make a prayer for a dream sign, you know. If I can get a sign in a dream that tells me the answer. And then I try to check my dreams. So, you know, check. You have to use, if it's a big decision, you have to use everything, you know, your intuition, your logic, your dreams, your astrology, you know, go to a palm reader. Anybody else insight into how you make big decisions about changes in the life? Alberto, you have something to say? No?
You just mentioned that sometimes lamas, they use the help of astrologers to get knowledge. Where this knowledge come from, and where this wisdom come from these astrologers?
That's just basically astrology. They just, I mean, but Western astrology doesn't come from the Vedas, does it? You don't like Western astrology?
No, because it's some based and the Vedic astrology is sidereal based. Very different.
Okay. She just said that I asked, you know, what Western astrology or Vedic astrology, and she said Vedic astrology is what based?
It's based on the sidereal positions of the stars.
And Western astrology is not based on that?
No, it's a sun astrology.
Oh.
It's very different.
Oh, I see. Give her the microphone. She can answer the question. She must be an astrologer.
Yeah, I like it.
Yeah.
The sidereal astrology is the base for the Vedic astrology. And in Vedic astrology, you can get a chart for your whole life because it has all the periods that will be the major periods, then the lesser periods. They are called dashas. And that will guide you to what planet is governing that period. Then they are lesser planets involving lesser periods, shorter times. But it's very important to know when your Saturn, when you were born, and when it will be at 30 years from that, and it will go back to your natal place at 60 years. And he will teach you the life lessons. So it's very important to know where it is.
Oh, I need to do that. I'm 60.
Then, well, life will change.
It is changing, believe me.
Yes. Then the Western astrology is based only on the solar movement.
I see.
Not the whole thing of the galaxy. You know, it's
I
very
see.
different.
I thought it was based on...
And there are 22 degrees difference between one astrology and the other.
Oh, I see.
Yeah.
Oh, that's good to know, see. Thank you.
Just advice from you. How do you introduce refuge for children?
Oh, that's a good question. I don't think it's so important for children. I don't know. I mean, children are taking refuge in their mother, you know, and their father. And these are good questions. I mean, I know, you know, they have Buddhism for children. I mean, maybe you could talk about Buddha as, I don't know, when I was a little child, I had a great connection with Jesus, you know. Maybe little children can have a good connection with Buddha. Because there is something, I mean, children are very spiritual. They feel there's something more than just their parents, you know. So maybe, you know, I really don't know. That's a really good question. I don't deal with children very much in my life, so anyone else want to try to answer that question?
There's a friend of mine. He when he was very little, he's Christian.
Yeah.
And there's I'm trying to translate. There's a little prayer. Ángel de la guardia, dulce compañía, no me dejes nunca de noche ni de día. Guardian angel, sweet company, never leave me in the day or the night.
Oh, that's nice.
Entonces, it's interesting because he went through lots of things.
Yeah.
Very
that is
tough
taking
things in
refuge.
life, and he remembered that every time he had a challenge, he was taught that little song for a while. Every time he had a challenge, he remembered that. And if you really look at that prayer, what you're doing is kind of refuge.
It is definitely. Well, you could just use the same prayer, but instead of guardian angel, you could say guardian Buddha, and teach children that. You answered your own question, because, you know, that's a beautiful little prayer. You know, you just, because I don't think taking refuge in the Buddha, the Dharma, Sangha, that's going to work for children. But what you said is perfect. You know, look after me. Particularly, it's really important to show children that, because parents fail. I mean, it's just the nature. You can't always be perfect for your children. So children definitely have a sense of guardian angels. You know, so why not let that guardian angel be Buddha or Tara or, you know, medicine Buddha or, you know, whatever. But that's a really nice little prayer. So you could, I mean, I think it's nice to teach children in a little song, too. They really like songs. So if you could put that in a song, these musicians here, you make a little song like that and teach it to children, I think that's perfect. And, you know, because like we used to say, you know, now I lay me down to sleep, I pray the Lord my soul to keep. You know that one? If I should die before I wake, I pray the Lord my soul to take. You know, I think I had to say that when I was a little girl, you know. And you could do something like that too, you know. But I really like that one, the one you said. That's very nice. So that's the answer to your question. Yeah. Veronica.
No, I just wanted to share an experience because at some point in my life, I was very fond of going to like psychics and people that are psychic. That's very common in Puerto Rico. And something that I found was that sometimes those people are just reading your mind and what you want.
Exactly.
They're not really seeing what you should do. And I made terrible decisions in my life guided by these people.
Yeah, Charlotte, yeah.
And I just want to share that with others because they're not really, they don't know, nobody knows the future. I mean, maybe an astrologer can help you a little bit more than, you know, a psychic, you know. And I always say that one of the persons that has helped me predict my life the most is my psychotherapist. You want to know your patterns, go to a psychotherapist.
Yeah.
And it helps to make decisions much better than, you know, that was my experience. And maybe an astrology is good because they can give you possibilities and stuff. But you know, and at the same, in the ultimate sense, the refuge was my practice. And I was like, I decided, okay, no more. Not going to any psychic or anything. I'm done with that. Because of those bad decisions.
Yeah, also because you do know. That's what I'm saying. You know, if you just have to take refuge and sit with yourself and it comes clear what you need to do, you know. And sometimes what comes clear, like to me, is it's not the time to make the decision now. You know, you have to give yourself opportunity to, oh, maybe in 6 months I can make this decision. I'm not ready yet. I don't have to change now. You know, let's just wait and see what happens.
Mm-hmm.
You know, but that's very good advice. I wasn't saying to go see a psychic.
No,
but
I'm
I,
just sharing.
yeah,
because
but I do think, you know, and when you go to an astrologer, you don't ask what should I do. You just get some points of what's happening here now, and that's also, you can get a very good reading on now's not a good time to make a decision. You know, you will be clear in another 6 months. You know. Yeah.
And get immersed in your practice. I mean, to
Yes.
move energy, you know.
Yeah,
in that
yeah.
way.
And also, I think it's good to go to an astrologer just to find out what your predilection is, you know, what your tendency is, so that you don't, oh, I'm going to borrow $100,000 to be a nurse. And you go to an astrologer and says, this nursing is not for you.
Yeah, exactly.
You know, you don't do nursing, you know.
Exactly.
Because that kind of thing, you know, you can, I think it's really helpful not to waste your education.
Yeah.
Because it's something that, you know, your parents want you to do, or you think you should do that. You know, I think the best thing about taking refuge is you learn to communicate with yourself. You know, you learn to take time to be with yourself and know yourself and listen and hear, and then you can, you know, it's almost like your body knows. You know, so I think that's really helpful. But that you know, we need to take time to be with ourselves. You know, we need to take time to be alone there, and listen and walk on the beach, and just time out. You know, we don't have enough time out in our society, right? You know, and it's almost like it's like a bad thing to do nothing. You know? I mean, I remember, I don't know, about 15 years ago, I decided it was a revolutionary act to do nothing all day. Or just read a book, or, you know, because we're so, especially the you know, people in the United States, you know, they're just like so consumed with doing, you know, we just like collect accomplishments, you know? We collect, you know, oh, I can do this, and I can do this, and I can do this, and, you know, and instead of collecting knowing me, you know, knowing myself and who I am, and you know, how I can best live in this world, you know? Yeah. Yep.
I want to share something.
Oh, okay, yeah, Conrad.
Talking about children's. I have a 6-year-old daughter. And at the time of 3, she said to me, I always pray with her in the night, because we're Catholics. And at the time of 3, she said, Daddy, I feel something inside my heart. What's that? Is that God? And I said, maybe, maybe not. I don't know. It's your feelings. Because I want to be sincere with her. And she always looking at me in my corner, meditating in front of a Buddha and everything. And what I did, I don't know if I'm confusing her or something, but what I did was she sometimes meditate beside of me, with me. and she said, why a Buddha and not Christ? Okay, don't worry. I put a Buddha and I put a Christ.
Yeah, that's good.
Okay.
Yeah.
And those both are our refuge.
Great. That's okay.
And
for now, it's okay.
No, I know,
yeah,
but I understand Buddhism and I respect that. I like the philosophy, as I told you before. But I think that in order to be a spiritual person and trying to find your own refuge, your own path, well, it is good to believe in Christ or believe in Buddha or believe in whatever you want to do.
The way I do it is I think that Christ was a bodhisattva.
Yeah, I read a book that it's called Buddha and something like that. Yeah, it's a nice book. Yeah.
I mean, because I mean, technically speaking, you know, Buddhists, we don't believe in God, but I don't know if even Jesus, I mean, he talked about the Father, he talked about, I mean, it's really difficult to know what Jesus really said because it's been interpreted for so many years. But but the actual, spirit of what he taught is no different than Buddhism, And there's just a philosophical difference, but there's philosophical differences within Buddhism even. So I think you can be a Christian and think of God as like emptiness, the union of inseparable bliss and emptiness is God. Or you call that God, then it's okay, I mean, right? I mean, technically speaking, Buddha, if we're a Buddhist, we're not supposed to take refuge in other traditions that are not Buddhist. But I think we can, as Buddhists, especially because we were raised Christians, if we can interpret Christianity from a Buddhist standpoint, there's nothing wrong with that. I think in a way we have to, because we have to be at peace with ourselves and our culture and what we learned,
The thing is that I want her to choose.
Yeah, you do.
I want her to choose.
Exactly.
Either Christ or Buddha.
Yeah.
Same happened to me.
Yeah.
At the time I graduate, I want to be a priest.
Yeah. But maybe
I'm
you
not
don't
a
have to
priest.
choose.
Huh?
Maybe you don't have to choose.
No.
I mean, maybe you can still feel, like I said, if you think of Christ as a bodhisattva, then and you can, interpret the Christian teachings from a Buddhist standpoint, then you can have both.
Yeah.
One time years and years ago, I read the book of, I think, John. It was all about emptiness. It's just those Christians didn't understand. He didn't stick around long enough to really explain the whole thing, Yeah.
I'm going to tell you my situation.
Yeah.
It's similar to him.
Yeah.
I have my Christ and I have my Buddha in front of me beside my bed.
Mm-hmm.
Because, of course, I come from Christian Catholic. So for me, what Buddhism has done is to make me understand the nature of God.
Mm-hmm.
I haven't stopped believing in God.
Mm-hmm.
Because for me, God is Dharmakaya.
Exactly. That's what I
And
think too.
So if you see the nature of Dharmakaya and that we all are going to the Dharmakaya and that's our goal, it's the same thing.
Yeah.
And you understand that if they tell you that God is going to punish you and all that stuff, you learn here
Mm-hmm.
that everything that happens to you doesn't come from God.
Mm-hmm.
So it doesn't come from Dharmakaya.
Mm-mm-mm-mm.
So what I did, for me, God is right now, it has been a better experience with God
Yeah.
than before.
That's what I mean. I think we study Buddhism and we become better Christians,
Yeah. And
We understand Christianity. And also, the early Christians, if you read like the Gospel of Thomas and these early, he talked about karma.
it's the same.
And I think that, when they had that meeting in Constantinople and decided what was going to be Christianity and what was not, they threw out a lot of good stuff because they needed to control people.
Mm-hmm.
God is going to punish you. God can't punish you. Karma is just karma ripening. But you see, the guilt and all that stuff that comes from that's how they control people. So we need to, revolutionize Christianity,
And maybe I'm going to say something very strong. My analysis.
Yeah.
You know that there's a trinity in Christianity.
Yeah.
We have a trinity in here too.
Yeah.
We have Dharmakaya, we have the Vajradhara, we have Buddha.
No, we have Dharmakaya, we have Sambhogakaya, and we have Nirmanakaya.
Yeah, Sambhogakaya.
That's our trinity.
I should say that.
Mm-hmm.
Sambhogakaya and Buddha. So we also have a bird. We also have Heruka. As we have
A bird?
Yeah.
You mean Garuda?
Garuda.
Yeah.
We have, because I do the practice of Vajrapani and Garuda.
Yeah. That's really good for you. Is
Is
that the one Robina gave you?
That's Robina.
Okay,
gave me.
now I know.
Yeah. I'm doing that one.
Yeah.
And I did a comparison, and I said, well, that's a wrathful version of the Holy Spirit.
Yeah.
That's what it is.
Yeah, well, just the other night before I came here, I had the good fortune to go to a talk from one of my friends, Jan Willis. And I was suggesting maybe we can ask Nyingje if she can come here, because she'd be great. But she's a professor, and so she was giving me a talk at Emory University, and so I saw her, and she invited me out to dinner, and so I was with these other professors and their graduate students. And one of the graduate students was making a whole comparison with Christianity and Buddhism, and what he was saying was, and it makes a lot of sense to me. I mean, if you look at a map of Asia, the Middle East isn't very far from India, and they were on the Silk Road, and for 2,000 years they're exchanging Buddhism, so who knows? Did the Trinity come from the Christians to the Buddhists? Did it go from the Buddhists to the Christians and the Hindus? And, they're all communicating, and it was a long time ago. And so what ended up in Europe, which became Catholicism, is just what happened there. But I'm sure, that's all connected, And so, and really, the way I like to look at it, because I rejected Christianity at a very early kind of teenager, because I just thought it was all hypocrites and stuff. And, and I became a scientist, And so I came to Buddhism from science, not from religion, because I was no longer interested in religion. It was later, much later, when I started doing my first long retreat, I started realizing, oh, this is just like praying to Jesus. Because I didn't have the devotional aspect in my practice, because I was just more of a scientist, and I was interested in emptiness, and, I thought, oh, this is a really great way to get scientists to have some morality if they can understand karma. Because the problem with science is there's no morality there. So I kind of got interested that way. I forgot where I was going. Where were we talking? Yeah. Yeah, but, God. Yeah, anyway, but, what? Oh, yeah, Jan. Oh, so the guy was just talking about the connections and everything, and I was finished with that. There was something else I was going to say. But anyway, for whatever reason, it was about the science thing. Anyway, just that, then I don't know what I was going to say, so I lost it. Maybe it'll come back. Yeah.
When I was in Nepal, and I went to a bookstore, there was a book about Jesus' life on the age he disappeared. And I know you can get the book on Amazon.
Yeah.
And the book mentioned about the Silk Road, that he would travel through the Silk Road, and he went to monasteries where he learned.
Yeah. A lot of there's
so it's more or less the same. And then they changed the view of Christianity.
Well, there's also these stories that say that Jesus is missing 12 years, that he went to Ladakh and studied in the great monasteries of Ladakh, and that they have records, actually. There's a video about that, and they had records of a great yogi named Isa, who came, and he was, and the reason they think he was Jesus was the name, but also because he was healing the sick and hanging out with the poor. And some people might even think that really it was Jesus that made Mahayana Buddhism. Yeah. Because Jesus was the one that was saying he was feeding the poor and taking care of all sentient beings, and and we just don't know. But I think the point is that we and maybe this is what I was trying to say before, is that we're here now, and we just take. Oh, now I remember what I was going to say. That if you think about all human beings, we have the same body, we have the same nervous system, we have the same experience. So if we're trying to talk about that experience that's greater than us, whether we label it God or, but every human culture, except for now maybe our materialistic, hedonistic culture, which is the most dangerous culture around because we're destroying our own planet. But until we had this 20th century material culture that was brought out of capitalism, everyone had some sense of a greater divine. And I think one of the reasons we have so much depression in our materialistic culture is people, they can't feel that anymore. And every culture has had rituals where they connect with something that's greater than themselves, right? And so, of course, it's all the same thing because we all have the same experience. It's just how we describe it is different. So the Jews said it one way, and the Persians said it one way, and the animists say it another way. I just think the Buddhists have the best description because I think that the people in India had a lot of time to examine and think about these things, and that I think that the idea of that comes from High Yoga Tantra with the winds entering the central channel and all these future lives and the subtle mind and all that stuff. I think that's scientific, and that one day, even the Dalai Lama said, one day the scientists will develop a machine to perceive the subtle mind, and then people will understand that even though Tibetan Buddhism is couched in a lot of ritual and there's a lot of mythology, and there's a lot of, the deities and all that stuff, but the actual science of what happens at the death time and the bardo and the rebirth and these things, that isn't mythology. That's actually science. And that one day, and I think that's why Buddhism is a very special thing and why we need to keep it alive, because I think it's a way to explain these mysteries, that they're not actually mysteries, And even I have a friend, Nisha, in our board, She has written a scientific paper of the physics of how you receive blessings from the relics, right? Well, you can't understand any of it because it's all mathematics. But it is coming, It is coming in our life. Maybe even in our lifetime, we will see, the union of science and Buddhism, Wait. Yeah, the Maitreya relics.
Yeah, there's not that many studies yet on the actual process of after death.
Yeah.
Obviously, for obvious reasons.
Yeah.
But there's a lot of theories. There's a lot of theories of molecular studies that can show why compassion works.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah, they've done a lot of that.
So
yeah,
when I was asked to do the Lojong, the Lojong practice, I went and I went to look what I could find.
Like Richard Davis's work.
Yeah, and there's another one called Fritz Albert Pop that has a lot of studies and that, and there's another weird theory called Garnier, the unfoldment of time, and he talks about how the present, the past, and the future happen at the same time. They're just different velocities, and he kind of matches up to what Buddhism says.
For me, when I was first hearing the teachings on, it was the Guya Samaja teachings from Kebje Song Rinpoche, and he was talking about, how you die and the subtle body and how you, it was just so amazing. I thought, and this has to be science, Yeah, okay, just one more question and then we're going to just sit for 5 minutes, okay? Wait. What was it, Carmen?
Carmen, yeah. I know that a lot of physical conditions come from the imbalance of a certain chakra.
Yeah.
When you're doing meditation and you feel that the energy it's all over the place in a certain chakra, is there anything that you can do to control it?
Yeah. You can, when you do the dissolution of the guru, when the guru comes to the crown of your head, you bring it right to that chakra. And then that purification that I was talking about, you feel the guru in the chakra and you feel the nectars and rays just cleaning out the chakra. Because, and chakras have little, channels that go out from it. So what you imagine is like, you almost feel like you're turning on a flashlight and you're just cleaning out the chakra with the flashlight. And you're imagining it, like as if you had arteries and you're cleaning out the plaque, like you're cleaning out that. And so that's just more visualization. But the other thing you can do is that thing of love. You know, you put a lot of love and care in that chakra, because usually the reason your chakra is messed up is because there's a trauma there.
And is it normal? Because I have epilepsy.
Oh, you too.
So when I start going deep into meditation,
Yeah.
I sense the electrical
Yeah. Yeah.
things running through my head.
Yeah.
And I don't know if it's part of the meditation or if it's that I'm going so deep that,
Yeah.
you know, the epilepsy, the electricity
Yeah.
is going haywire in my
Yeah.
head.
Yeah.
So it's like I try to control it.
Well, I think if you can, what I would do is there's a meditation where you just try to experience your hollow body.
Okay.
And also bring the energy down. Like when you're breathing, you breathe down to the base of your spine, and and as you breathe out, you send the energy way down in the earth.
Okay.
So that you're grounding yourself. You imagine that, okay, you're breathing in, we're still doing the same one, I'm breathing in, I feel love, breathe out, I relax. But as you breathe out, you send the energy way down, like you're sending it into the center of the earth.
Okay.
Try that.
Okay. Thank you.
Yeah. In fact, everybody should try that. It helps a lot when you're like that, Okay, so let's just sit 5 more minutes. Actually, about 4 more minutes, because we have to do the dedication too. And just bring your awareness back to your body again, and the breathing. And just feel that the Guru is in the center of your heart. And I think we should all learn that little prayer about the guardian angel and say it to ourselves. Just feel safe, protected, and loved. I'd like to do the first of the dedications in Tibetan because it's nice to have a little music. Some of you musicians can put these prayers to tunes, Gewadi nyo Centro Rinpoche, ma ke panam ke yurji, ke parnyam parme paryam, gone gondu pelvarsho, Toni tawa Rinpoche, ma ke panam ke yurji, ke parnyam parme paryam, gone gondu pervarsho. Then read the rest in Spanish.
Así como el valiente Manjushri Samantabhadra distinguieron los fenómenos tal cual son, yo también dedico estos méritos en la mejor forma, siguiendo ese ejemplo perfecto. Dedico todas estas raíces de virtud con la dedicación que es considerada la mejor, por los victoriosos asidos de los tres tiempos, para poder realizar todas las buenas obras. Leemos la oración de larga vida de nuestro maestro Yansi Rinpoche, recordando a todos los maestros que enseñan el Dharma a través del mundo. Madre Tare, liberando del samsara, tu Tare, liberando de los 8 temores, Tara, Madre que libera, por favor otorga el don de la longevidad, por las bendiciones de los gurús raíces del linaje, por los logros espirituales de los Yidam, dioses y diosas, por los métodos hábiles de las Dakinis y los protectores del Dharma, que podamos realizar gozosamente la esencia de nuestras esperanzas. Gendun Tenzin, eres afable, benevolente y bondadoso. Por favor, permanece con nosotros durante una larga vida. Expande tus actividades iluminadas en todas las direcciones y continúa madurando y sustentándonos a mí y a todos los seres sintientes. Desde este momento y durante todas nuestras vidas, manténnos bajo tu tutela. Sé nuestro amigo, nuestro divino y virtuoso guía. Limpia la degeneración de la ignorancia. Ayúdanos a realizar rápidamente nuestro recorrido por los senderos y caminos y alcanzar los 3 cuerpos de un Buda, por la verdad de la realidad incambiable y por la bendición conjunta de la indestructible Sangha, que la esencia de estas oraciones se logre rápidamente.
So any merits that we accumulated today, we dedicated to world peace, to everyone developing compassion for themselves and understanding that when people harm them, they're just looking for happiness, so that we don't need to revenge or harm people back. And for everyone to care about all sentient beings, to care about our planet, that for people to understand that having more things doesn't make them happy, so that we can not destroy our planet with all this overconsumption of things, filling up the world with garbage. That all the people who are homeless have homes, and those that have jobs can have jobs, and that people have taken care of and have people that love them, and for the Dharma to flourish everywhere, and for all those people who are making the world a better place, and all those organizations, that they have all the conditions they need, all the money they need, that the really rich people start to give their money away and discover that that's better happiness than having $20 billion. And for the long lives of all our gurus, for His Holiness to live long. And for this center to prosper and grow, and for there to be harmony here. And all of Yangtze Rinpoche's wishes fulfilled, and all our gurus' wishes fulfilled. So we can seal the dedication with emptiness. And rejoicing how wonderful it is that we can all come together and create the cause for enlightenment for ourselves and all sentient beings. Such a wonderful thing. Rejoicing and feeling grateful and happy. So have a good evening. We'll see you tomorrow maybe. And just remember, this could be your very last day on the planet. So take care of what you think about and what you do. Right? Okay. Adios, amigos.
Lo que nos puedan ayudar a recoger las ofrendas, se las vamos a agradecer.
You know, my I, you know, my body, you know, it's mine, you know. Anyway, we can't find anywhere in the body. So then we think, well, I must be my mind. Well, why do I call it my mind? You know, if I was my mind, it would be the mind's mind. You know, mind would be I. I couldn't look at my mind. I couldn't see my jealousy. I couldn't see my desire, you know. I couldn't see these things in my mind because it would just be, you know, the same thing, you know. So it actually feels like the I is separate, doesn't it? You know, it's separate from the mind, it's separate from the body. It's something not the mind and not the body. But that's totally absurd because then my I could be like on the other side of the room. You know, it's not like hovering in space somewhere above my body and mind, looking at my body and mind. But it appears to be separate, doesn't it? I can definitely see it's not the same thing. But it's not that either. Because it's absurd to think it would be, you know, somewhere separate from my mind and body. So what is this I? It's just an appearance that arises in dependence upon mind, and dependence upon body, and dependent upon experience. It's a label, you know, I, me, my. Because we have an experience, there appears to be a truly existent experiencer. But really, it's just arising in dependence upon the experience. There appears an experiencer. And because this happens all our lives, there's a continuation of this experiencer, so we tend to think it's something that truly exists. And when this is strong and stabilized, and the ultimate refuge is in the lack of findability of the I. So it's always good to end by doing either just experiential or brief analysis of the I. Bringing up an experience where the mere I becomes the reified I, the big I, the me. How dare you say that to me? Why were you so mean to me? How dare you step on my toes? I'm afraid of falling. I'm afraid of whatever, I. You have to bring up a sense of that big I, And with another part of the mind, one part of the mind holds the I, holds the experience, the emotional I, the big one. But with another little part of the I, we have to look and see where is this I existing, the one that feels so real. If it were to truly exist, it must be findable upon investigation. So, in the more simple analysis, we can just look for the I. Is it somewhere in the body? Is the I my brain? Is the I somewhere in my chest? I don't think the I's in my feet or my arms. It feels like it's in my chest, right? But if the I was somewhere in my body, why do I call it? Can you just lead the, I go for refuge till I'm enlightened? Yeah.
Okay. Vamos nuevamente a tomar refugio. Decimos, voy por refugio hasta alcanzar la iluminación, al Buda, al Dharma y a la Asamblea Suprema, por los méritos que acumule practicando la generosidad y demás perfecciones, que pueda lograr el estado de Buda para beneficiar a todos los seres. Voy por refugio hasta alcanzar la iluminación, al Buda, al Dharma y a la Asamblea Suprema, por los méritos que acumule practicando la generosidad y demás perfecciones, que logren el estado de Buda para beneficiar a todos los seres. Voy por refugio hasta alcanzar la iluminación, al Buda, al Dharma y a la Asamblea Suprema, por los méritos que acumule practicando la generosidad y demás perfecciones, que él pueda obtener el estado de Buda para beneficiar a todos los seres.
So we're just going to sit for a couple minutes and go back to that experience of refuge. So, very simply, it's just breathing in, bringing in all the blessings, feeling loving kindness in your heart. Breathing out, letting go, and giving to all sentient beings. So it's like we give to ourselves from the Buddha, and then we give out to all beings. But the source, comes from the Buddha, which ultimately is our own wisdom, love, and compassion.